Wow. All right. Another amazing or crazy or amazingly crazy week, however you want to look at it. I'm Dave from MMYAY as always, and I don't want to waste any more time. So let's get stuck into it, hey? Alright, so we had UFC Fight Night 89, headlined by a 5-round Technician's Dream chess match with Wonderboy. He managed to beat Rory McDonald. He had Steve Bussey and Sean O'Connell belting the living shit out of each other to steal away Fight of the Night honours. Cowboy Donald Cerrone put on an absolute clinic against Patrick Cote, who was far from a joke in the welterweight division. We also had the first ever women's flyweight bout, finishing in a strange yet thrilling manner, with crazy mofo Jojo Calderwood raising her hand with the third round stoppage. So I suppose the whole card was really beautiful from go to woe. Ali Punchabagotynov, he kicked off the first fight on the Fight Pass prelims, and he won that one with a decisive decision victory, gassing a little bit towards the end, but looking good for most of it. And I mean, the Fight Pass prelims as a whole were excellent, especially Colby Covington. He pulled out the victory by rear naked choke. I mean, for anyone who's not aware of Colby Covington, he's definitely arrived. I'm gonna call it now, so keep an eye on the Californian they call Chaos, because he's going to keep surprising us over the next year or two. I mean, is he good enough to compete with your Wonder Boys or McDonald's, maybe Cowboy Cerrone? No, he's nowhere near those guys yet. But he's definitely a top 10 fighter with a lot more improvement to make. And improvement he should be able to make with the right camp. He just needs to get the right guys around him and get a nice push from the UFC, give him a couple of good matches to really push him forward in the rankings. But it was also nice to see Joe Soto on the weekend. He finally came good. I mean, he can't have been far from lining back up at Bellator with a record of 0-3 going into Saturday's fight. It was good. It was a good win for him. It takes him to 1-3, so he's definitely not out of the woods yet as far as his return to Bellator. But it's a good stepping stone for a bloke who 3 fights ago was challenging TJ Dillashaw for the Bantamweight Championship. I mean, all I can say about Soto's victory is Chris Beal pretty much beat himself, and Soto really didn't assist too much. And if you follow me on Twitter, which you should, at Dave MMYAY, you'll see I posted that Soto was about 7 minutes away from being 0-4. That's how confident I was he was going to lose. But then in classic Chris Beal fashion, which seems to be the standard script in all of his fights lately, he gasses like a fat kid trying to eat a wedding cake on his own. I mean, I'm happy to eat my words, and congratulations to Soto on pulling out the victory, but I feel more for Sean Shelby, who's got to find someone for these guys to fight next. It was probably the weakest fight on the card, and I mean, I'll definitely consider both of these fighters cuttable. Maybe Bellator can get a 2-for-1 deal on these guys, because they sure aren't getting Steve Bussey or Sean O'Connell. And I mean, if you were watching last week, which you should have been, I went over how Steve Bussey had 2 fights in the UFC for a win and a loss, and had fought for something stupid like 1 minute. And I also mentioned that Sean O'Connell desperately needed a win to stay in the UFC. Well, O'Connell didn't win. But O'Connell did win the Fight of the Night honours, and I would say that Fight of the Night gets you at least one more crack at the UFC. I mean, Bussey and Connell didn't put on the most technical fight of the night. Those honours definitely went to the Wonderboy McDonald fight. And I mean, they didn't put on a very convincing victory in, Donald Cowboy style. But they banged it out for a solid 15 minutes, and Bussey's eye was so closed over, I doubt he could see out of it for a good part of half the fight. The boys managed to channel their best Max Holloway impression, and they threw down in the middle of the cage for the last 10 seconds before Bussey got his hand raised. Super close fight, well, in my eyes anyway. And it was a spectacular performance. I mean, kudos, boys, on that one. But it's going to be $50,000 headache for the next week till they cash those checks. And how about Chris Jocko euthanizing the barn cat? Took him less than a minute to turn McCrory's lights out with a fantastic overhand left hook that caught him flush. Tandem McCrory had taken 2 years out of the sport, and this was his return, and certainly not the return he was looking for. Jocko, from the get-go, pushed the pace with feints and jabs, and Barncat, who was definitely the favourite for this, he ended up on his back. Jocko is interesting, though. He's exclusively fought on Fight Night cards so far, But this knockout got him Performance of the Night bonus. So, I mean, we definitely need to see this bloke fighting on a pay-per-view and fighting someone of note. Like, it's time to test this guy. He's 18-1, and his only loss was 2 years ago. He's on a 4-fight streak now, so it's time for him to see a challenge. But, I mean, something that's become apparent is a 4-fight win streak means nothing now. 5-fight win streaks the same, 6. I mean, I thought for the longest time that there was some kind of implied rule where if you were in this kind of form, and I'm talking 4 fights, 5 fights, 6-fight winning streaks, you were definitely in the running for a title shot or at least a number 1 contender's spot. And I mean, Jocko KO is not the best example because he's pretty much beaten nobodies, but Max Holloway has certainly not just beaten nobodies, and he and Wonderboy both have 7+ win streaks, and neither have got a title shot coming up. I mean, Wonderboy will obviously be fighting either Lawler or Woodley, but for the next month he still works as a great example, well, for me anyway. And I mean, maybe I just want to see Holloway stop getting messed around in the world's most confusing division, the featherweight division. I mean, he's obviously waiting to see what the fallout from UFC 200 is with the Edgar Aldo fight, but he's been waiting for a long time and he hasn't been beaten for a long time. But there's heaps more to get into, guys. So what we'll do is I'll get you to catch tomorrow's video, and I'll go into Jojo Calderwell, who's your new 125-pounder favourite, Cowboy and Wonderboy, as well as the UFC sale rumours, which will hopefully have more steam by the time I post tomorrow. Or if you're not watching this the day it comes out, which maybe most of you won't, you can probably just move on to part 2 right now. It's probably over there or up here or somewhere. And I'll probably get very excited about the new Fight Pass on the next video too. So that's probably something to tune into. It's really cool now. I know I get in trouble talking about that all the time. But as always, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That'll keep you in touch with when I put new videos out. And check us out online at MMYAY.com, peep the Facebook, and follow my musings on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @DaveMMYAY. Check me out, I post all sorts of stuff all the time. And all the details, if you want to go and follow some links and stuff, they're just down below the video, so you can definitely keep in the loop. Alright, until next time, my friends, I'm Dave from MMYAY. Cheers.